Hi guys, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay, let's get you guys up to date with the weekly goings on with XRP and HBAR. So starting off with XRP, we have Citi, who made a 5.5 trillion forecast for tokenization by 2030, which could lead to a potential $35 XRP valuation. Okay, so basically what happened was there was a forecast made by someone from Citigroup. They're basically a big financial entity involved in wealth management, banking, investment, etc., that kind of thing. And based on this forecast, people had done a evaluation model, basically using AI, to see what kind of prices XRP could get to based on this 5.5 trillion forecast. Now, I will just quickly say two caveats. One, the caveat is that XRP wasn't predicted to take all of that 5.5 trillion, so we're not saying that that's all going to go to XRP. And two, it's not a guarantee that these predictions are going to actually happen. It's not a thing of if it hits this 5.5 trillion, then XRP will be guaranteed to get to these prices, right? So long story short, they did 3 models, and the best way I can simplify it down, just for now, like for the sake of just doing this as a quick summary, is they did like a best case scenario model, a middle case scenario model, and a worst case scenario model. The worst case scenario model was very worst case, to be honest with you. It was based on XRP getting to like $3, which I thought was a bit silly because XRP has been $3 without any of this tokenization anyway, so I thought that was very worst case. The middle case was between $10 to $20, which I thought was fair enough. It was kind of ruling out more speculation and being based more on utility. And then the $35 was based on basically full speculation and utility. Now, I don't know if XRP is going to hit $35, but I'll say this. If we was in a bull run, like if we had a proper bull run with a proper alt season, like we did in like 2021 and 2017, etc., like those kind of bull runs, XRP could hit $35 in just a bull run. And that's just on speculation alone. So do I think it could hit $35 if we're talking about all the tokenization happening and speculation? I definitely think that's plausible. That's not an outrageous number at all. It's not like they've said it's like $1,000 or anything like that. Like, that's very reasonable. So I thought that one was the most realistic, but do I think that definitely means that XRP is going to hit $35? No, I can't say that for sure, but it was definitely a plausible number, and I thought that was the most accurate one to go by personally. I'm not saying that just because it was the highest number. It's because at the end of the day, speculation will always exist. And when it comes to investing, you're always speculating on things. Like when you invest in a company, speculation is part of what you're investing, right? You're speculating that you think the price is going to go higher. So speculation is always going to be there. And then if you had things like tokenization happening, and let's just say other areas XRP is successful, well, that's going to lead people to speculate again that XRP is going to be more successful and get higher in value, right? So that's going to add to the speculation for the price. So I thought that was the most obvious one, but doesn't guarantee it's going to hit $35, but there's potential there. Okay, moving on, we've then got Made in USA, that's adopted XRP infrastructure. So yeah, they made a disclosure filing to the SEC, and they've basically, acknowledged that they're now using XRP with their business. And the thing that I found interesting about this is they're actually using both the private and public network to do their business. So part of it they want to keep, disclosed for their clients and whatnot. So they're using the private network in that aspect, but they're also using the public network to make some of the activity transparent. So like that they'll be like doing official documents of things that have taken place on the public network, but the information about it will be on the private network. I thought that was really interesting. And what I like about that is because, one of the concerns that we have is if these banks and institutions, etc., are all using like just the private network, that's not going to impact the XRP that we hold, because the XRP we hold is on the public network, right? So if they're all just using the private network, well, that's not really going to benefit us. It'll benefit us if the companies like banks, etc., say, yeah, XRP ledger's a great network and that kind of thing, because that can lead to, word of mouth and people wanting to use the public version. But it's not going to help us in terms of the XRP being burnt and utilized, right? So I thought that was good because it made me think, well, maybe banks will do the same thing. Because originally I was just thinking banks are only going to use a private network. They're not going to use a public network. But I'm thinking now maybe they will use a public and a private, because in this day and age, like, people want transparency, right? And so I think that might be a thing that could force their hand to use both. So for, confidential reasons, the stuff that they need to keep private, they'll keep private, but they'll still do certain activities that will be on the public ledger, which would be great because that'll still add to the public ledger's activity, utility, XRP being utilized, etc. Right? So definitely something to keep an eye on, but yeah, that was just something that caught my eye, and obviously additional adoption for XRP, which is always a positive. Okay, the next thing we've got is XRP wallet creation hitting a brand new high. So yeah, we've got 26,000 wallets that's been created towards the end of June, which is the highest it's been since March. So what I was saying about this is like, look, I don't know for sure, but what this could be is an indicator that we're basically around the bottoming region of this market. It doesn't guarantee, but there's one of two things happening here. It's either people are feeling like we're at the bottom of the market and they're now feeling like this is a great buying opportunity because they feel it's going to start to go up from here, or it's the adoption taking place in terms of like tokenization and that kind of thing. It's the utility that's going on, which is leading to wallets being created. Now, I was saying before, like, I think either one's a positive. I think that's great, but this could be an indicator that we're going to start to move up from here at some point. It could be that this is like, not the exact bottom, because you can never, pinpoint the exact bottom, but this could be pretty much the lowest we're going to get around here, give or take, 10, 20 cents maybe. And then it could be that after that, we start to move back up. So who knows? Not a guarantee, but it is an indicator. Seeing that many wallets being created, it seems like something is going on. Either way, it's a positive. Okay, so then we've got moving on to Hedera. Real big news here. So we've got Hedera being stress tested by basically huge financial institutions. So BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Swift, DTCC, like huge banks, JP Morgan, like these are just names that are just coming to my head off the top of my head. There was lots and lots of banks that were being utilized in this document that was published, and Hedera was the network that was trialed on. So there was Hedera and Ethereum and Bisu. So Bisu is not a network that I'm familiar with that much. Ethereum, I'm sure you guys know, but Hedera was one of the three that was actually trialed on. And don't get me wrong, there was lots of networks that were involved as well, like Ripple and XRP, Stellar, Canton. So don't get me wrong, it's not like there weren't other networks that were like involved in the process, but the actual networks that were actually trialed were Hedera, Ethereum, and Bisu. So out of all the networks that there are out there, Hedera was one of the only three that was actually utilized and trialed on. I think that speaks volumes. I think that's really bullish. Like, to be honest with you, like I did the video and you'll hear the excitement in my voice when I'm going through it. Like, I think that was one of the biggest indicators that we've had in a long time. Like, it's made me the most optimistic for HBAR that I've been in a long time. I think that's absolutely huge. I really do, because you've basically got all the big institutions testing Hedera. That is absolutely crazy. Like, they've basically done a sandbox to do a trial with tokenized assets. Like they're basically testing the future. Like, that's what they're doing. They're doing a stress test to see how things will be if they were to utilize the technology. So I think that's absolutely massive. And to be honest with you, like with Ethereum being in there, Bisu I can't speak on because I've never heard of Bisu, but Ethereum, like we know the deal with Ethereum. I think at the end of the day, Hedera is going to outshine Ethereum hands down, in my opinion. I think that's going to be quite obvious. Like, I feel like Ethereum got picked because it's the number 2 cryptocurrency and it's got the most liquidity. But when it comes to the actual technology and the experience, I think Hedera is going to beat it easily. But look, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I've said this to you guys before, it's not going to be one network that rules them all. It's going to be interoperable. And that's why it's not just Hedera that was used. And that's why, in terms of like not being trialed, but you've still got XRP being mentioned in there. You've got Stellar being mentioned in there. You've got Canton being mentioned in there because it's going to be interoperable. It is. Like, there's going to be multiple networks that operate these types of technologies and all this utility. So it doesn't surprise me in that regard, but I think it's absolutely massive that Hedera was the actual network that was trialed on. I think that's a huge indicator. So that was really big. Then we've got TamMPay that has launched their product on Hedera, which is basically cross-border payments along with AI, KYC/AML compliance. So the KYC/AML compliance is Merced AI, which is something that I covered last week. So this is basically them using Merced AI to do cross-border payments with TamMPay. So I'm not going to get too much into the Merced AI side of things because I've covered that before. But basically, this is going to revolutionize cross-border payments. That's the long story short of it. And adding the Merced AI into it for the compliance aspect, I think that's going to be huge. I think that's going to be something that could add a lot more banks wanting to use this technology, because at the end of the day, AML is something that banks have to comply with. So any kind of help they can get with that, added with the features and benefits of the technology, i.e. being fast, cheap, that kind of thing, it's obviously it's the next step. It's like the next step of evolution of doing cross-border payments. So I think when the Clarity Act gets passed, I think this could be something where a lot of banks could come forward to want to use this product. I think there's a lot of potential here. So that's definitely one to keep your eye on, 100%. If I do obviously find anything more on that, I'll obviously keep you guys updated. Okay, so finally, on a bit more of a negative note, unfortunately, we've got the Hedera and Bonzo exploit. Okay, so this was something that I covered at the time immediately. So when you guys see this video, it might have been released a lot sooner, because I wanted to like move videos around to get this out as soon as possible, because it was like breaking at the time. But yeah, there was basically an exploit on Bonzo's product Lend, and it unfortunately led to a $9 million exploit. Now, this has led to Hedera dropping in value along with Bonzo's token as well. But I've gone through it all, and it wasn't actually Bonzo or Hedera's fault. It's not anything to do with like the Hedera network. It's got nothing to do with Bonzo's product. It was actually an exploit in an oracle by Supra Labs. So this is something that happened on their end. They've basically patched up the exploit now, so it's sorted, but unfortunately it's happened. The damage is done, unfortunately. They actually managed to get away with $9 million. Not sure if I mentioned that earlier, but I'll give you a quick explanation of what happened. So these scammers managed to get a load of fake source tokens. So source is source swap. They managed to get a load of fake source swap tokens. They managed to somehow like really drive the value up high of what the source tokens were worth. And then they used the Bonzo Lend product to borrow against the source swap tokens. But because it had a fake valuation of the tokens, they were worth a lot more than what the real source tokens value was. And so they managed to get away with borrowing against the source swap tokens with a load of obviously real money, like real HBAR, etc. So they managed to get like 9 million worth of, I think it was wrapped HBAR. And so obviously it's an exploit, it's unfortunate, but this isn't anything to do with Bonzo. Like their system worked the way it was supposed to. It was the tokens that looked fake, so the value appeared to them, to the product genuine. But that's not anything that Bonzo could have, it's not something that Bonzo could have stopped. Like the product did what it was meant to do. It happened just on the Hedera network, but it had nothing to do with Hedera. That's got nothing to do with the network itself, right? So the fault lies with Supra Labs. That is something that they are, they're working on now. Bonzo are working with the authorities to try and recover the money. Real shame, to be honest with you. Like I was saying this in the other video, these kind of things, like it's going to damage Bonzo's credibility, unfortunately, even though it's not really their fault. I do really feel sorry for them, because this could be something that could really like damage their business now and like future earnings, because it's like people will have that worry now. They'll have that stigma of Bonzo, even though it wasn't their fault. So I really do feel for them in that regard. I reported it because as a content creator, I don't just want to just show you positive things. I want to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I also just wanted to make you guys understand that like this isn't a thing of Bonzo has done something wrong or Bonzo has scammed people. Like this isn't anything on their end. Like the truth is, it's got nothing to do with Bonzo or Hedera. So I wanted you to know the full picture, but also to show you that, yeah, like these things can happen. Unfortunately, there are scammers out there who are constantly trying to find new ways to exploit money out of companies and stuff. And, all I can say is I hope they manage to, get it sorted out. I hope they manage to figure it all out and get that money back. And I hope they manage to get the people who did the exploit, because, this is people's hard-earned money and work going into these services and, these businesses. And, like if Bonzo went out of business now because of this in the end, like let's just say from here on, they just don't get the same kind of activity anymore. And, their business dealings really drop because of this. That could force them out of business eventually. And, that's just because of some greedy people who don't want to work for their you know, for their money. They just want to take it from other people. So I really do feel for them. But yeah, like I say, the main thing I'll say with regards to that, it wasn't Hedera's fault, it wasn't Bonzo's fault, it was Super Labs, it was an exploit. It's been covered up now and they're working with the police. Obviously, if I get anything further to update you on that, I will absolutely do that. As I say, I just hope they manage to get this all figured out and get back to normal business. But I'm not here to promote them. I'm not here to attack them. Like, I'm just giving you the news. Like, it's up to you guys what you think of that. But I just wanted to give you the facts so you know the full situation, so you're fully aware, so now you can make an informed decision from there. Okay, so that's it. You're all up to date with the weekly goings on, and I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching this. If you did like it, please remember to like, comment and subscribe so you can be updated for future XRP and HBAR content. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be alerted on when I do drop a new video. Thank you very much for watching this, and I'll see you all on the next one.